everybody. This is Julissa. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much to everybody who's listening in the podcast. It is Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. You guys, there's a lot happening in this world. I'm here to speak about the situation that's going on in the UK. Okay, I'm speaking about it. Also speaking about the situation that happened in New York this couple days. So before I continue, I want to say thank you to everybody who's listening using Spotify. Don't forget to follow the podcast there, and everybody who's also listening using, let's say, Apple Podcasts and Pandora Podcasts. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you want to know more about me, just visit the main website, Julissadesigns.com, or you can also follow me on Instagram, or you can, if you listen in the podcast, you can also go to the YouTube channel, Julissadesigns. Okay, we're living in crazy times, you guys. There's no doubt. Also, breaking news. I think it was yesterday. They just announced that a lot of people would not be receiving their SNAP food benefits starting November 1st. Okay, so just think about that. How many people are currently enrolled in SNAP benefits, right, in the U.S.? There's a lot of people involved, right? And and by the way, I've got to do a parenthesis here. Everything that I say here is my opinion, and I'm not speaking about particularly anybody specifically, right? But it's just kind of like there is like a big question mark in my part when I see this emphasis on continue this going according to plan with the Halloween celebrations in the Church of Jesus Christ, when we have a huge pandemic happening right now that is affecting millions of people. Oh, what's happening in the world? Yeah, not everything's not handy dandy. Not everything is going beautiful for everybody. And obviously it's always been like that, right? But what is happening lately, the last couple of months, the way this aggressive seek out to get foreigners, okay, and you guys know what I'm referring to. I'm trying to be very cautious about what I'm saying because we don't want the video to get canceled, but the aggressive search for foreigners to the point that it's even getting a lot of people who have everything in order, let's just say, being mistakenly taken away, right? Like the situation that has been happening in New York City. And last night I was watching a live from New York about people saying, we don't want you in New York street, you don't come and do that here, right? And I was so happy just to see people coming out and demonstrating that, right? And I understand this video is about what's happening in the UK. I'm gonna get to that, but my issue that I will always have is just that we're so scheduled when it comes to the Church of Christ that you have 30 years, 50 years celebrating Halloween, and you're not even willing to make a parenthesis and say, hey, millions of people are going to lose food benefits starting November 1st. Why don't we do a food outreach and we're going to start giving food like we used to do during 2020, let's just say. Why don't we start, instead of donating this, why don't you bring a can of goods so that people who are struggling buying groceries can come here and see this place as a place where they can say, I'm gonna go there and get groceries this week, because they're not giving out food stamps, right? But everything has to be so scheduled, and all the money already has been separated to celebrate Halloween, because as we know it, right? Jesus and the disciples, they never miss Halloween. They were on it, like, this is our thing, we have to do it, right? Find me that verse, okay? I understand that, there are things that we celebrate now that perhaps maybe they were not in the Bible, so much so, like, let's just say like birthdays, right? That I know that's a whole different topic. I'm not against it, nothing like that. But the thing with me with Halloween is when it comes to the whole idea of abstain from the appearance of evil, right? And that is in the Bible, and be in the world but don't be of the world, right? And not only that, you put all of that in your mind and you're like, wait a second, there's a lot happening right now. there's a lot happening. Families are being separated. People are, we're entering our season of, joy in family gatherings and Thanksgiving and Christmas. And they're saying to people, November 1st, by the way, everybody, you're not going to get food benefits, right? And people are managing 3 jobs just to get groceries, and we all know how expensive groceries are right now. But no, we gotta keep going with the Halloween celebrations, right? Because we're in the world, but we're not of the world. But we cannot skip Halloween this year, even though we have been celebrating this for 50 years, 60 years, whatever, right? That's the whole point that I have with the Halloween, especially in the times that we're living in right now, that moms are crying out and saying, they're being caught up by these agents on the streets, right? Because they don't have their paperwork in order. That's how I'm going to phrase it. And they're saying, my kids are waiting for me to pick them up from school. And there is no mercy, there's no grace there. They're being taken away, right? And these are like, can you take away the fact that perhaps they don't have their paperwork in order? But like, that's a child of God too, right? That's also a child of God that probably has been praying a lot for a solution for their situation. But the thing is, like, there's no empathy, there's no sympathy. And, it's like, well, they knew they was coming. What do you want me to do? Right? That's why last night, watching the live from New York and seeing them on the street protesting the aggressiveness of treating the people that come here to work. You know how crazy it is to go into a car wash where people are just trying, those people, the majority of them, I don't know their salary, but they don't make a lot of money, right? And it's this aggressiveness to take out people who are just trying to work, to make a living for their families. There's no mercy to say, hey, well, you already have kids here in school. You already have been working here, let's just say 3 years. We're going to come up with a program that you can still stay here, and we're going to help you fix your paperwork. Like, I thought, in my opinion, from what I saw beginning of the year, this was going to happen to people who are criminals, right? People who are terrorizing the streets, people who are doing illegal things, right? But when you see them going after people just working at car wash, supermarkets, and things like that, how can you as a child of God not have empathy with that? Like, I don't understand, right? I don't understand, and we need to pay attention. Everything, you need to look at everything, right? And people are like, well, we all know all of this is going to happen. This is all meant to happen, right? But it's like, we're so scheduled, right? Everything has to go. We did the last year, we gotta do it this year again. Don't stop watching the news, right? Other people say you watch too much into news. I mean, even the disciples says, ask Jesus, when will this thing happen, right? Like, you can't be like, oh, I'm safe, so I'm just gonna wait for God to return. I know the world is gonna, all of that is gonna happen. Oh, the thing that's happening in the UK, oh yeah, that's in the Bible, that's gonna happen. Let's just continue on, ignore people's need, and let's continue on and live, because we know at the end we're gonna be in heaven with Jesus, right? God, there's a verse in the Bible about how you treat foreigners, right? How you treat widowers, the children is so biblical. And like, how can you not have empathy for everything that's happening right now? Because if you have empathy for something, you take action, right? That's why I was so happy to see people in New York coming out and protesting, right? Why don't we make this big outreach about Halloween instead of making it that? Why don't we collect food, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, we're collecting, for Thanksgiving, at the end of the month. Like, these people are not going to have money November 1st to buy groceries. Why don't you say, we're gonna turn it into this big drive-through where people can come here and get a week worth groceries, right? That will be our outreach for October 31st. How about we do that? No, there's no like, no. Those Jesus and the disciples, they were so on Halloween, man. They never missed that day, right? Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. But it's just things that you see. Like I said, this is all my opinion. Then you like question things, right? And yes, I understand that we are the church, but I think as a community, it's just, if we see many churches, let's just say many churches at least coming together and making this big event and say, hey, we hear you, right? We hear you. We know that there's a lot of people crying to bed right now. There are children who are crying to bed. They went to school, right? And they were waiting for their mom to pick them up, and they learned that their mom is not coming back. That their lives is now being completely changed forever, right? Then, they're crying. They're taking their mom and dad away, right? Dad probably, so scared to even like open the door, right? To every time somebody's knocking on them, or like when they leave for work, just praying that they able to at least bring some money, right? But they're not, a lot of them not even bringing back anymore, and they're not even coming back themselves, right? And we are the feet of, we are the hands and feet of Jesus. That's what we do. Okay, we'll see you on October 31st, right? Don't miss it. That is just crazy, right? But there are a lot of things happening. There is also, this is my opinion, like I said, there's a construction that's happening in the big house here in the US, and it's just wow. It's just, we have 22 days of this shutdown that's continuing on, progressing on day after day. There's no solution for it. People are coming on social media and saying, I've been working, not getting paid because it's part of the whole shutdown. And that's sometimes we don't understand something until it happens to us. That's just how life is a lot of the times. And then we have people in the UK coming out on the street. This is what I'm going to speak about, I promise. They're protesting this whole thing that they're coming up with, that people in leadership over there, you guys know what I'm referring to, are coming out and saying, eventually everybody's gonna have to have this, because this is gonna make everything so easy. And it's gonna, listen, when I was reading this, I was like, wow. They're saying it's gonna make everything so easy, and it's gonna make us track, it's gonna be able to help us identify who has the right to work or not. I mean, you think that's so biblical right there. I'm not saying this is part of that is the mark of the other. I'm not saying any of that, because I think there's no confusion in the Word of God, right? So once we see it, we're gonna know that's it right there. We're gonna know exactly what it is, right? And that's why you have to always read your Bible. But they see, in my opinion, it's all about, let's see how this is gonna be presented. Let's see how it is received, and if it's well received and welcome, why don't we just roll it out to other countries, right? And when they say only the people who have the right to work, right? We know that if you don't work, you don't eat, right? So I feel like this is there's definitely some type of searched out to kind of like separate people who are, if you went to a country, if you migrated to a country, right? There's gonna be this big separation, right? Like, you're not really from here, right? There's a movie, one of my favorite movies, I don't think I ever said this here before. One of my favorite movies came out in 2005. It's called Children of Men, right? And that movie to me was so futuristic. It is, right? I think it takes place in I'm just thinking, I think it takes place in 2025. It came out in 2005, right? It either takes place 2025 or 2030 or something like this. I know it's Clive Owen, and then there's another famous actress there. But in this movie, the whole scene is about, this movie is about many other things, right? But I believe there's a scene there that is stuck in my mind for a long time. And in this scene, you can see how there were like this big cages, right? Well, first of all, they were running. They found themselves in a situation, right? If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm referring to. They're in this bus being transported, right? And then out of nowhere, they come to a checkpoint, right? And then in this checkpoint, there's two big guys that come with, you know, military, I guess, outfit guards, right? And they come and they're asking everybody, I don't know what, I think they're asking if they for the passport, they were born there or they came from a different country, right? And they ask everybody, whoever didn't have their passport or whatever answer it was, I don't know exactly what it was that they asked, they got removed and then they were put into these cages, right? And then the cages were like open air iron cages for people, right? And they were just, and then in this movie, you know, it's so futuristic and it's so crazy because you're looking at that and you're like, man, we're like 2 seconds before that happens, right? Especially the old images that are coming out, and you see that and then it says something about immigration, whatever, right? And I'm like, wow, that's so crazy. That movie came out in 2005, so it was probably made like, you know, before that, obviously, but it's just so crazy. Everything is almost like connecting, right, to everything that's happening in the world right now. And you know, I know some people say, you know, I don't like watching the news because I don't want to get myself upset, nothing like this. But I think, you know, we can't be ignorant, right, to what's happening in the world, right? Like I said, even the disciples asked Jesus, when will this thing be, right? If we know, like, if we are called to be the hands and feet of Jesus, right? How can you not want to know who's in need? Share the gospel, right, and things like this, because you see that things are coming. Things are getting, well, we're getting to the point that we're seeing things that we have never seen before, right? So on October 18, about a couple days ago, thousands marched through London to protest the UK plan to introduce a mandatory digital ID for all citizens by the year 2029. And they protested march, chanting and waving banners among the slogans saying, a digital prison is being built around you, no freedom, no privacy, and if accepted, if you accept digital ID today, you accept the social credit tomorrow. Okay, this is all this is all moving forward to, if you're a Christian, you know what I'm referring to. Definitely we are living in the end times, right? And I know maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we will say these things and, you know, we were like, yeah, I know it's crazy, but late 2024 and be in this whole year, right, you can see that, like I said, we are seeing things that we have never seen before, right? So the whole plan, let me read you guys off the website there, this digital ID, right? I think I put it here. It says here that they're saying it as a very positive thing, right? Because it always starts by being very positive, right? What is the whole plan for this digital ID and will it be mandatory? The Prime Minister said that the system will cut the faff, I don't know what that means, for people trying to prove their identity in a range of scenarios, as well as they have the right to work. That word, I have a problem when they put the right to work, right? It's like, it's just gonna make us easier for people in leadership, right, to identify who is legally here, right? I guess you can say who has the right for this, right? And it's just gonna be something easy. You're gonna have to prove your identity for so many things, right? And this is just gonna fix everything, right? It's just, you know, there's a reason why people are protesting this whole thing, because, I mean, are you serious? They say the scheme will be rolled out by the end of the parliament meeting before the general election, which by law must be held no later than August 2029. And it says here, once introduced, digital ID will be used to verify a person's right to live and work in the UK. So this whole aggressive, right? We see it here already, right? In this country, and now it's over there. This aggressive campaign, I guess you can say, to sort out who's from here and who's not, right? And who has their stuff in order, right? And it will verify the person's right to live and work. It will take the form of an app-based system and store on smartphone in a similar way that digital bank cards work. Right, you know what I'm referring to? What is coming to my memory now? When I was in college, they gave you like I think it was a kind of like a school card, right? And every time you went to the cafeteria, they have to scan it to make sure that you were in the program, right? Back then that didn't mean anything because you wanted a card and be able to get food, right? But it's like then you were able to see like how many credits you had left for the month, right? Before they upload it again, kind of like a debit card, but it was for their system, right? But the thing with this is like, how much information is going to be stored about you in there, right? Because it's going to have your identity information, it's going to have your ability to work and live there, right? It's what they say. That's why people are all on the street going against it, because there's going to be no more privacy. There's going to be I feel like right now there's no privacy at all anyways, right? This is just gonna, if this is enforced, that's what they're pushing for, right? I think they're saying everybody must have it, right? It's gonna just take away the whole privacy against it, and it's gonna create this whole system, right? And you guys know what I'm referring to. Eventually in Revelations explains everything, how all of that is gonna come to be, and we might be in the presentation of it pretty much, right? So let me see how much time I have left. Okay. So employers will no longer be able to rely on a national number, which is currently used as part of proof to the right to work, or paper-based check. It's a minister over there insists it will curb illegal immigration by making it harder for people without status to find jobs, right? This aggressive thing about going after foreigners, right? I understand that when you go to a country, right, you want to do things the right way, obviously, but sometimes there are situations that happen in your life, right? And there are situations that happen. Everybody has their story, right? But my thing is like, how crazy it is, like what has been happening here is that you show up to make things right, right? And like I said in my previous video, it takes people, people that don't earn a lot of money, up to a whole month of salary, to hire a lawyer to say, can you take a look at my case, right? I just watched a movie about somebody, a lawyer for immigrant. I think her name was I forgot the name, but it was about this lawyer over there who she eventually created her own office to help people. Because when it comes to immigration, everybody has their story. A lot of people that come here, they are escaping something horrible that happened to them, right? So the thing is, like, I understand having everything right, do things the right way, all of that, but isn't it beautiful that when you say, man, these people, I know they don't have the paperwork in order, but look at them. They are a good standing citizen, right? They go to work. It's like you see the people selling stuff on the street, trying to make a living, trying to put food on the table. It's like, why don't we come up with this grace program that we're gonna give people the chance? Hey, we see that you have not gotten in trouble with the law. You are working up to 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Your kids were born here. let's just say some people have just their dad that have 30 years here, unable to make their paperwork, fits their paperwork. They're gonna aggressively remove the dad. It's like, you have no grace. There's no grace in there. There's no empathy for that at all, right? No criminal history, no nothing, not even a traffic ticket, right? Nothing. And then these people are gonna gather their money, hire a lawyer, go to the court, and then it's just so crazy how there is no mercy when it comes to that, right? And people will hear me say that and be like, what do you want them to do? We are paying for this. Like, I always say, sometimes you don't understand something until it happens to you, right? That's how sad it is, right? We see everything that's happening, all the craziness that's going on, and then on Sunday we're like, would you give life? You are love, right? We love the Lord, right? Where is that compassion for everything that's going on right now? Right? Because when you have compassion for something, you take action, right? So it's just, it's just all of that, right? So there's an aggressive, it's clearly an aggressive thing about tracking down people who are illegally, right? And that's the whole thing about this digital ID that they're going to plan to do in the UK. And like I said, it usually starts somewhere and then they see how it's received and then they roll it out everywhere, right? And they say here, employers will no longer have to rely on another system, kind of like this big upgrade, making it very technology friendly, right? To make everything, so digital, right? So accessible, easy. You don't have to go around with your ID, it will be all stored, right? But you're gonna give so much of your privacy there, right? Everything will be tracked, everything that you do will be tracked, and that's the problem, right? And I'm running out of time, but it's just something that something that we have to think about. It says here they're planning to consult whether the children aged between 13 and 16 years old should be included in this whole scheme, since many of them already work part-time, right? They're gonna say it's, just to see who have the right to work and live there. That's the whole point of this, right? Official have stressed it will not function like a traditional ID card, and people will not be required to carry it in public. They say that you wouldn't need the digital ID to access medical services or go to the hospital. It always starts with that. It's just one thing. We only need it for one thing. And then why don't we just put it all together? It will be easy, right? That's just my opinion, guys, okay? So that's what they're promising here. And they say it will be on the smartphone and will work for those even if they don't have smartphone, passport, or reliable internet access. They will start a public consultation in late this year, so within a month probably, right? And speaking about this, and also I saw that in Switzerland they also have been I think they implanted 100,000 people. Let me see if I can get that information for you. Because I know they were doing that in 2018 in Switzerland, but I believe recently they also continue to do that. They're still doing the microchip to help people pay for when they go to the stores. I mean, I know they're doing it. I believe Whole Foods is allowing that too. So all of this is happening, you guys. So let me know, guys, what you think about this whole thing. Let me know if you are listening or watching from the UK. Let me know how it's going over there. you can leave a comment, and if you are, let me know if you're for this digital idea or if you're not. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming to the channel. Thank you to everybody who's listening to the podcast. Have a good day, everybody. God bless. Hi everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good day, everybody. God bless.